previously on the Deja Blu Podcast.
When you are not aware of yourself and who you are, you cannot live a separate life from your herd. Your herd is the one that determines when you're going to leave until you become aware. So, and aware is not what is the truth. Aware is who am I in all of this.
What do you believe is the responsibility and the role that do have their basic needs met to support with the alleviation of the suffering on the planet?
We are looking for answers, and when the answers come, we don't hear them. This has been the conflict for a long time since humanity disconnected from themselves. I met a lot of people that when they were connecting to the higher self, they said, maybe I'm just imagining that. And I said, yes, that's the point. Exactly. You are imagining that because the universe is mind. The only way the universe can create is through imagination. We are trapped not only in a war, we are trapped in our minds.
Welcome to the Deja Blu Podcast, where we believe that living a life of magic can be the default. Join us each week as we playfully and authentically dive into the mysteries of life and explore what it truly means to be human. From spirituality, wellness, and all things taboo, we don't hold anything back. So without further ado, let's let the magic unfold. So I'd like to share with you mud water. Mud water has become my morning drink in replacement for coffee because it gives me that beautiful boost of energy and focus without the side effects of the jittery, ungrounded, nervous, and the energy that then crashes later. Mud water is also action-packed with our superfood mushrooms, including lion's mane and cordyceps and reishi, as well as other superfoods to support with that beautiful stream of energy and focus. What I also love about Mud water is that they pay forward some of their profits into supporting mental health research through psychedelics. And as you know, if you've been a part of the Deja Blu podcast or have tuned in, that psychedelics have been a big support on my journey of self-awareness and evolution. And so I'm so excited that Mud water is paying forward to support with one of the greatest pandemics on the planet, which is our mental health. So if you're interested in getting into Mud water and learning more, go to the show notes and there is a link, www.mudwater.blue, and you can get $20 off your order with some free goodies. So go check it out. When I was at Arkadia recently, we were just, both of us were guest speakers at Arkadia. Every time I would go and sit down to plan my talk, I was being constantly reminded, please don't speak from your mind. Mm-hmm. And I was putting a lot of pressure on myself around how I was supposed to pray or how I was supposed to talk because of everything that's happening on the planet, and not wanting to feed into more distraction from it, but allowing ourselves a deeper responsibility. And when I stood up on stage, what was coming through was an exercise just to connect everyone with their 5-year-old self. And literally, I said 5, like of all the numbers, and what you just said. And I just had everybody close their eyes and connect into their heart and have a conversation with their 5-year-old self and ask themselves what got lost along the way. Mm-hmm. What happened? Because you were in a genius at that point in your life that has now become so disconnected that we don't even know who that person is anymore. And then we're so angry and caught up in the narratives of who we're supposed to be from the outside in that we have forgotten to check in with the only person that we've got to impress for the rest of our lives, which is our 5-year-old self. Yeah. And yet we've become so disconnected from it. And so that was what was being guided when I was not in the mind and I was in the heart of what I had a 30-minute slot to have a responsibility with hundreds of people and to have a conversation around a very sensitive time in humanity. And that was what the message was. That was what the guidance was in the moment. And there's something very powerful about if we can get a photo of us around that age and print it out and place it in a sacred space in a home. And every single morning to have a practice to check in with that version of ourselves and say, hey, is that version of me really proud? Is that version of me saying, wow, I'm so happy who you've become? Or is that version of me saying, you lost something along the way? Remember when we used to sing? Mm-hmm. Hey, when was the last time you danced? Because in shamanic traditions, if somebody's lost their way, lost their life force energy, lost their path, lost their direction or their dharma, the shaman will ask, when was the last time you danced? Yeah. And there is a simplicity in that. And there's a simplicity to the genius of a child. And yet there is so much distraction and there is so much noise and there is so much confusion that somebody to say, oh, we'll connect with your inner child feels almost naive, like a bypassing, and is shrouded with shame. And so I think that there is a balance and there is a dance around an education around what's happening on the planet, while simultaneously recognizing our vibration is a contribution to the collective. And so I think this is super interesting that you bring this up. And I would be interested to know, moving forward, for me personally, as somebody that has a platform, that has a podcast where we have millions of people that are listening, that has a social media following, that people are paying attention. And I'm not just talking about me in this sense, but also to anybody that has a microphone or a voice, that has built a platform that now, in a very pivotal point, people look to because they have looked to from in the past. And of course, not from a place of that we have the answers or that we're being pedestaled, but more so from a place of refuge amidst a sea of illusion. How do you think is the best way? And ultimately, I don't think anybody's truth is the truth with a capital T, but from your perspective and your knowledge and your understanding of your past life memories, what is the best way to utilize a platform or a voice right now that would be a message that could actually create a solution, not more problems?
Well, it's very difficult because, of course, everyone has an opinion. For example, I put a message that was neutral once, and the discussion was, why you are not talking about the genocide? Why you're not talking about this? Why you are supporting this? And I don't know why people thought that I was supporting one side or the other, or why I should speak about a genocide or this kind of tough words, and why now should I speak about that and not of all the other countries that are living exactly the same, but nobody talks about. So I wonder, should I make a post every day regarding every region in the planet that are living exactly the same, and they are not heard? Or so should I fill up all my social media of suffering and pain because this is happening every day in the world? So I thought about that myself, and I said no, because my message is to fulfill joy. So if other people are willing to leave the discussion, the conflict is their life, I don't care. That's my point of view. Like, my point of view is I have to bring as much neutrality as I can and as much joy as I can to compensate the suffering. If I start to talk only about the suffering that's happening in the world, I only create suffering. So what I'm trying to do is, okay, for example, this is happening right now in the Middle East, which is not happening in the Middle East. It's happening in Israel and Palestine. There's a conflict there. Nothing is happening in Egypt, in Jordan, in Saudi Arabia. So it's not happening in the Middle East. It's happening in the south border of a country, of two countries. So this situation, for example, I say, well, what should I do? I will go to Egypt, which is the closest border. I will go the closest I can to the Sinai Peninsula, and I will try to anchor a message of high frequency there, which is not about stop the war or this side is right or this side is wrong. It's about let's find neutrality. Let's find the middle point that we have lost in all of this. So I think that the responsibility of having many people listening is giving them the choice or giving them the opportunity to listen another point of view, which is neutrality. And remember that that's not the only conflict happening. That's not the only thing happening in the world right now, that we are just looking at it because everyone is talking about it. But there are so many people suffering even aside of us that we don't pay attention to, just because the news are telling us to see one thing. So I think that is important for us to remember that from our tiny little lives, we can make a change to people suffering around. Like why we are concerned about people in Gaza but we don't care about the people living in the streets in LA. Nobody's taking them to home. Why do you want to bring people from Middle East to your home and not bring in the people that are in the streets here? So that's so weird. We have this dichotomy, this division that we project our willing to be a good human into the outside, but we don't do it into the inside because we forgot the middle point, the being coherent here and now. And I think that the people that has a big audience, we can actually try to remind us all that it's not about what do I have to say about that conflict, is what do I do with the conflicts that are around me to help others that will help others, and so on. Because sometimes it's like, I cannot do anything for the people there. Like some people were writing to me, why you are not doing anything for the people there? And I said, what should I do? What can I do? More than try to help people to remember the center, the middle point, the balance of it. So I think our responsibility is to not be afraid of speaking about the middle point, not being afraid of losing people that are in the division, that are in duality. Because today, and much more here in the States, it's all about the image and about how the others look at you all the time. Like, but people will judge me, or people will unfollow me if I say this. And what so? Why? Doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just you're trying to maybe transform your message just not to lose someone that will never understand your message, even if you change it. Mm-hmm. Why are you wasting time? Like, why are you wasting time on being yourself, on finding the middle point for yourself, just because 100 or 1,000 followers? It's like, Jesus had only 12. He didn't care. He died before he knew that had 1 million followers. So this is the important thing for me. I believe that if we keep truthful and rightful to our own essence, it doesn't matter how the world see you. It doesn't matter, because otherwise you're not being right with yourself. Mm-hmm. You're not taking care of the people if you're not yourself, if you're not speaking your own truth. And I think that when we say today there's a lot of suffering in the world, this have happened all the time. It's just that today the people have social media and can show you live streaming what is happening. Before we didn't. Before we needed to read a newspaper or the news to know what was happening. But today we have so many news, so many options that we think that is even worse. But it's not even worse. It's what has been happening all the time, constantly in the planet. And even though joy kept on going, people sing, people dance, people create art, while there were wars too. And those people were the ones that helped evolve the world. Those people that kept dancing, that kept singing, that kept being themselves, were the ones that changed the perception of the world. That made people got together in because of artists. So it's not about a political position on who's wrong, who's right. It's about keep on going on trying to awaken joy and the middle path. And I think that's our job. That's the job of us. Like in 2012, for example, when a lot of people were thinking that the world was about to end, December 21st, 2012, My decision was to go to Antarctica, to the end of the world, the actual end of the world. Like I said, well, if the world is ending, no better place to die than the end of the world. So I went to Antarctica, but it was not about the world will end. Antarctica is the most pure continent and the one that holds the crown chakra of the planet. So all the information is there from the very beginning of life. And so what we did there, we weren't just 6 of us, and we sat there with penguins and sung a song with a guitar. And the penguins were like looking at us, and we started to laugh and talk. And the idea was to laugh as much as we could in order to hold the happiness in the most pure place in the world. So the crown chakra knew, okay, there is happiness happening here. So even if a lot of people were worried about what would happen, I tried to go to this point here in the brain, to the cerebellum, which is in the Antarctica Peninsula, to try to say all the nerve system of the planet to listen to laughter and not the suffering. And it was beautiful. It was amazing. And this is what, for example, myself, I expect to do when I go to the Sinai Peninsula this time, to rise up the frequency of what is happening. And condemn what is happening is just taking a part of duality. And I'm not condemning anything. I am just trying to think about a future where there's no need to condemn. So,
on a slight pivot, but also simultaneously, it's completely woven into all of this. Something that I have noticed and that we have also been talking about recently is that for people with a message that really is as close vibrationally to truth as I can possibly get to, I've noticed a reoccurring pattern, whether it's Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King, certain people, Malcolm X, certain people in the past that have delivered messages that have changed the trajectory of humanity and evolved us past suffering at a large degree. Their message has only really been heard after they passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you believe that an individual that is bringing a message that can support with the alleviation of suffering has to pass away for the message to be heard?
Because the tuning radio frequency of the planet is suffering. So if someone is talking about joy and divine and future, you're not tuning in the same frequency of the planet. So it's like we are in 2 different radios. So most of the people are in the suffering and duality, separation, fighting. So if someone comes with a different message, eventually to be heard has to go down to the same level to be heard. And that's why most of the masters have to die or suffer in front of everyone for them to listen. Because otherwise they cannot pay attention. Like, oh yeah, it's fine that you're meditating, but we have a real problem here. So that person meditating had to come and suffer. So they say, oh, it's in the same frequency as us. And why is this person suffering? Oh, because of this. And they lead it to that message. So some masters have decided to go down into the dark in order to be heard.
So then if we look at the story of Jesus Christ and how Jesus was exposed to complete brutality and hung publicly in front of so many people, bleeding to death on a cross, wearing a crown of thorns. And the message was heard, but not really on a mass scale. And yet the message now of Jesus Christ continues to echo through the chambers of our words, our hearts, our actions, and our deeds on a global scale. And yet this man was talking about loving thy neighbor as thyself was the embodiment of love. Jesus Christ did not have a religion. He was an echo of love.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until after he passed was the religion was created, which actually has also fed the division on the planet, which has created another cycle again. So I just find it to be interesting that the common theme with our wisdom keepers of today are those that have had to pass away for their message to be heard. And it does also lead into a belief that I think that one of the biggest pandemics is that we've forgotten how to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Would you elaborate on a little bit of our capacity to listen? Because that's been one of my greatest initiations with a significant amount of my hearing decreasing has been the question of where am I not listening? And that's actually the curriculum here, is that I've not been listening, and I'm still working on that through the realm of distraction. And so I would be curious to hear your perspective on the pandemic, one of the pandemics being our inability to listen.
We are looking for answers, and when the answers come, we don't hear them. We are trying to see God, and when God introduced himself, we don't see it. So this has been the conflict for a long time since humanity disconnected from themselves. We are now in one of the periods where most people are waking up suddenly. So a lot of people is listening, a lot of people is seeing, but they are afraid of listening, afraid of seeing, because that triggers all their lives. Because when you start to listen the truth, when you start to see the truth by yourself, not because someone is telling to you, but because you are connecting it to it, that means that your whole life will change. It means that your security will change, that the way you live will change, that the people that surrounds you will change. And that scares most of the people, because we have been living our lives in order to try to find the most safety environment as possible. And because we are trying to live a normal life, survive, and be taking care of our loving ones and so on, when we start to listen the voice of God, or whoever you want to call it, suddenly it pushed you to get out of that, because suddenly you start to understand that the whole purpose of life was not just to survive, was expansion, was transformation. So when you connect with the voice of the divine, it pushes you to transform, to evolve, and that means change. And people is afraid of change. Everyone is in the world. You only can hear, we want to change, but not here. Like, no, we want that he changed the government, whatever. But we don't want to change, because we are animals and we are scared of change. It could be death. So that's why we rather not listen. And that applies not only to the divine or God, but to anyone. Today we have so many truths, so much information. We are able to look for any answer in Google. We can connect with anyone through Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. Everything is so connected today that we have so many options to reach the truth or the different truths, that it's so annoying, because you don't know which one is real. You cannot know which one is real. So you rather get stuck to your own personal perception of the truth. And if someone comes to show you a different one, it's like, no, I don't want to listen to that. So we start to talk over the other instead of listening. We start to try to say, no, this is the truth, or this is what I know about it, and try to impose your truth to the others, not listening to the truth of the others. So we have been in a constant fight, which is not about to put our truth upon the others, but scared about others putting their truth on us. So we are so scared about that we attack first. And so that's why we are so close to listen also the voice of the divine, because we cannot even listen to each other. And not even talking about religion, it's about friends, people, like whoever is around us, we don't listen. And it's all because I am afraid that if I listen, my life will change, and my body is not ready for that. So there is so many chances and options to change today that we rather go back to something that is safer. Like a lot of people are coming back to the religions because there is so much information around, so many options, that is easier when you go just to one book that has all the answers. And they said, okay, I will defend this because it's easier. And it's easier and safer. So that's why we don't hear. It's just because our animal aspect.
So I quickly want to share with you something that I've incorporated into my morning practice and my morning routine that has got me feeling some kind of way. AG1 entered my life because my friend was drinking it in the kitchen, and I was like, wait, that looks real healthy. Can I have some? And she was like, yeah, this is actually really amazing for your gut health. It's also amazing for my stress levels. And so I got a little sip of the green Kool-Aid and I liked it. And so I have been incorporating it in my morning to reinvigorate my body to start my day, packing me with all of the nutrients that I'm missing in my regular diet and allowing my body to feel a little bit more rested, knowing that I'm getting everything my body needs for my daily vitality. So if you are interested in learning more about AG1 and the magical benefits that can support our health, then go over to www.ag1.com/blue for a discount code and get started on your subscription of a better health and a better tomorrow. When you're speaking just on a personal level, of course, the listening piece and the hearing piece is a very sensitive and deep initiation for me in this life, and something that has and will continue to echo whenever I'm really truly listening is that this was a gift for me to actually be able to hear. Mm-hmm. And so it's such an interesting paradox, because to take away the hearing to truly actually be able to hear, and then from that place devote my life to creating a platform, to create an offering, and specifically within my immediate reality to be able to hear the hearts of the people around me, which ultimately plants really potent seeds that then eventually germinate to become a field of flowers that create a beautiful fragrance everywhere I go, which is available actually to all of us, but because we've become so reliant on our five senses that we have become disconnected from actually being able to hear. And listening and hearing are two different things, I think. Listening is just I'm paying enough attention to be able to grasp what's going on in this reality so that I can stay in this conversation. But hearing is beyond the mind. Hearing is beyond my own individual identity. And hearing is actually being able to understand contextually where this person is coming from, what this person has experienced, and why this person has formated this perspective of reality so that I can understand it. And from that place, recognize I'm transcending that there's a right and wrong in this conversation, and I'm actually allowing a true sense of unity to be born because I can actually hear you. And I think that that's one of the big pieces that we're lacking. And one of the big pieces, which is my life's work and something that I'm continuing to learn to unpack. So it's super interesting to hear your perspective, because a lot of light bulbs, of course, every time I have a conversation with you, so many light bulbs like ping, ping, ping. It's like a Christmas tree going on in my head. So I think that we will wrap up this podcast. Today, there's just so much to integrate and there's so much to break down, and there's a deeper sense of responsibility. There's many different pieces that we've touched upon, and specifically also a ripe conversation with the conflicts happening in the Middle East. But in addition to that, the conflicts that are happening on the planet in general, and to not just look through the limited view, because from this limited view we can't actually see the bigger perspective, and then it can feed a sense of helplessness where we actually kind of get into the state of inertia where we don't really do anything and we kind of remain stuck, and that holds us as a collective in a holding pattern, which is not evolving us and it's not devolving us, it's just a holding pattern. And so you've given some big pieces that allow a deeper place of contemplation and truly to hear what does this do for us as an individual level, and how can this create a deeper sense of responsibility first and foremost to end the conflicts within our own mind, to end the conflicts within our own immediate reality, and also simultaneously recognizing if I'm not caring about the homeless people on the streets in LA, why am I caring so much about what's happening in Gaza, and how can there be an intricate connection of caring for all of it, all in the same breath. As the importance of that, because performance for activism is a very real thing through social media. We are the first generation that has been navigating social media, specifically Instagram stories, and so we're learning firsthand how to navigate this sense of, am I acting from a place of intuition or am I acting from a place of pressure? And if I'm acting from a place of pressure, I'm living for something outside of myself, and living for something outside of myself is still division, and that energy of division is contributing to the division we see in the world. So there's many layers to unpack, and it's very nuanced, but it also comes back to a simplicity as well, and I think that simplicity is the North Star of how we can guide ourselves through these times.
We are learning. I think that this is the process of learning. We are, as you said, we have just a few years of social media and everyone interconnecting to each other. And we have been thousands of years being human and learning it from a different way. So we just had, 30 years of internet. We just had 10 years of social media. So it's nothing compared to history of humanity. So we cannot tell that this is the end or this is the truth. Actually, we are practicing an over-information because this is a good thing, actually. All the chaos that is happening in the world today is because we are over-informed. And because we are over-informed, we stop believing everything, which leads us only to one possible way, which is trust yourself. And that leads you to the meditation, that leads you to the inner growth, to seek for information that is only within you and not in a book or someone that is speaking to you a truth. So actually, the chaos that we are living today is a really good clue for awakening humanity. It's just that because we are living in the frequency of suffering, the only way in which we can find that way is through suffering today, which is not the only way, but is the way we have created for thousands of years. So it will take a long time for us to create the path of joy instead of suffering. But I think this over-information, it's helping us to find our own truth within. And the own truth, for sure, is never duality. So if you position yourself in one side of the story, you're still not within you. And that's a very important clue, I think, to understand, to see if you are really in your heart or you are trying to control a truth outside. I think it's important to see that difference.
This conversation's given me a lot to reflect on, of the way that I move forward and the responsibility of my platform and the truth I feel in my heart too. Because ultimately, any guest I have on this platform, any guest, any piece of information that I hear on any podcast or any bit of information that I hear online, I think that what is most important and something that has been my North Star is to listen or to hear what my body's saying. How does my body respond and react to that? How does my body respond to that person speaking? How does my body respond to that piece of information? And every time that I listen to my intuition, and I know that this is the case for all of us, is that it gets stronger. Every time we listen to our intuition and honor it, it gets stronger. And so that is the opportunity to build the muscle. And it's like going to the gym. If you want to build a muscle, you have to repeat yourself. You have to go back and create a consistency. Yeah. And so to go to the gym and to work on the intuition muscle, eventually it becomes strong enough to actually allow ourselves to create a piercing light of truth in a sea of too much information and many illusions. And it's kind of like a hall of mirrors, smoke and mirrors. So it's an opportunity to understand in a deeper way what our responsibility is. And so, Matias, thank you so much for just being a voice of piercing light in these times. And I feel endlessly blessed that I have been able to receive your presence for an extended period of time over these last few days, where you're in my home and you're delivering me potent messages last night and this morning, and I grab my little pillow and I lay on my bed and I say, give it to me, Matias, let's go. and it's so funny because you have such a bird's eye perspective on certain situations that almost it's like, okay, I'm going to deliver this message from somebody that really truly cares about humans, like really cares about humans, right? Because you've got this bird's eye view, which doesn't have an identity to the characters. It just is for the greatest evolution and the greatest truth of everybody involved, where I'm overhearing my human experience going, but I don't want her to feel sad, and I don't want my message to come across as harsh, but I'm also feeling agitated, but I should probably check in on that before I respond. And you're just being like, all right, how do I deliver this message to somebody that really cares about everybody else's feelings?
Like it was like, how can I translate this message to someone that really cared about humans? It was like, you don't care about humans? Well, I care about Earth. I said, I care about Earth. And today is humans, tomorrow octopus. Like...
And this neutral, it was neutral again, right? Like I find that I'm getting swayed in one way or another, and also recognizing through the spiritual language or the spiritual way of being is that we're all so nice, but are we real? And I'm a Scorpio woman, and I feel the unspoken things, and sometimes love is going, no.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is also what's needed is I don't want more nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if I don't want more nice, then I've got to stop being so nice and still remain loving.
Yeah.
And that is something that you invited me into this morning because there was a part of me that was like, I'm complete with this looping of this conversation and I want to be clear and put a heart at the end. But it's like there is like there is an opportunity to honor everybody involved by no longer needing to be the spiritually evolved nice person, while simultaneously remaining loving. And I think that in itself is the path of the Scorpio woman. That is in itself the path of Scorpio season that we're in right now. It's my birthday tomorrow. Woohoo! And that's an evolution of my own personal path of my empowerment. And I feel like I say on behalf of me, because of course I'm speaking on my personal experience, but I'm saying it to create a level of relatability in our own unique way. And I think that, again, that is what I deeply appreciate about your wisdom, is that your delivery is blunt and needed simultaneously, because it pierces through the fluff. And it gets to the deeper opportunity for evolution. And ultimately, I personally am signed up for that. I want to evolve, and I want to evolve with others. And so I'm just so grateful for the times that we've had these one-on-one connections. And I know that I said that I'd talk about what happened last night, but we didn't go there in the conversation. It just wasn't what was meant to be today. I think that we touched some really important pieces. And you're going to come back on a podcast, like... because every time that you're around or in town, I'm like, come on, let's go. I want to rinse you of content, because what you're sharing is just so profound and so needed. And I feel so privileged that we're at about 4 million listeners right now. So that's a good amount of humans to be able to get this message out. And so I'm so honored and grateful to be able to have your voice on the platform, and to have you as a repeating guest, and would love to have you more, and we can share as we are in the integration of last night's ceremony and what was activated. But I'll leave you a clue. I'll leave you a clue of what happened last night. Merlin, yes, Merlin the wizard, came to my bedroom of all places, the simplicity of my bedroom, and pointed out every single clue, whether it was in the artwork that was behind my head when I go to sleep every night, to the channeled artwork that I created on the lion's crown, and the symbology of the message that was exactly intricately needed for the evolution of my mission and the mission of the women that were in that space, the constellation of my best friends in that space. And Merlin delivered a message to each of us individually that was exactly aligned with what we were navigating in a blind spot that was taking us 1 degree away from our mission. delivered the message. All together we were experiencing it. And then right at the end of the message, pointed to the wall on the lion mural that I had painted, and the piece that just came through me. It was almost like I blacked out, and this white piece just kind of dropped in, and I didn't think twice of it. And every single piece that you shared was the artwork on my wall, and how it was all intricately connected, because you gave a download for her, a download for her, a download for her, and a download for me. And then you went to the wall, and the entire download was written on the front of the lion.
Yeah.
I walked out that room, and Lily turned to me and she goes, well, that was single-handedly the most mystical and magical experience of my entire life. And she was up until 2 o'clock in the morning doing research on every single syllable and word in which you echoed into her ear. And she feels like you have liberated her. Like she said, I feel liberated from the disease in which I created for myself. And now I feel a sense of responsibility of what it is I'm going to do moving forward, and my role and my mission on this planet.
Cool.
Cool. I mean,
happy for that. Another normal Tuesday.
Exactly. And at the very end of it, as it turns to me, she goes, so that's a casual Tuesday. and then Reggie looks at me. She's like, nah, no big deal. We're just like chilling. And all of us had this moment. So that's like a little piece of clue that I'll leave. And I think that that's all that's necessary right now in this moment. But we'll definitely have more times to be able to communicate. So
I know which door is open.
Huh?
I know which door is open, and if you leave food, I'm going to be here. Yeah,
exactly. Perfect. We'll just keep feeding you and just making sure you've got pancakes.
Throw something on the floor.
Perfect. All right, Matias, thank you so much for being on this podcast. So grateful for you, and I'm really excited for more to come.
Sure. Of course. Thank you for inviting me.
And to you beautiful humans, I guess I just want to echo, if this podcast resonates with you, if there is a sense of feeling of like a part of you starts to be able to rest in who it is that you are, or a deeper sense of self is rooted in, and you feel like this podcast can really benefit other people, then please go ahead and share it on your Instagram stories. Tag both myself and Matias in the Deja Blu Podcast, so we can share it far and wide, far beyond our own individual platform, to be able to share this message of neutrality, to share this message of empowerment, to share this message of a deeper understanding beyond the mind and into a very mystical dimension of what it means to be human. And in the meantime, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Deja Blu Podcast. Truly an honor. And we will see you next week. Sending you so much love wherever you are, from our hearts directly into yours.